You know, I was having a conversation with a closeted Trump supporter. These are the people who, like, they'll say, hey, I'm not for Trump, but they will low key defend him or try to make stuff plausible out of everything he does. Because this is one of the things that's going on with the economy. There are jobs, jobs, jobs everywhere, but most of them kind of suck. And that's one of the things that I think a lot of people are not getting. Because right now, you could do Uber, you can do Uber Eats, you can do DoorDash. A lot of these jobs are not full time. And it often takes 2 to 3 of them for people to elk out some sort of kind of living. I mean, it is crazy what, because I'm just looking at, I actually have friended someone who has one of these gig jobs, and I'm just looking at their life, and it's a struggle. It is a struggle because, it's a Uber gig and there's something else. And it ain't what it seems. And there's a lot of people who are saying that we're not going to have a recession. Here's the thing with that. We're already have certain parts of the sectors of the economy already in recession. Trucking, retail, malls. This already in a recession. It's been a recession for a few years. And one of the things that I don't think people understand, because before you become educated with a financial education, the first thing that you're going to do to make more money is to get another job. That's the first thing you're going to do. And that can be a challenge. That can be harsh. That can be a trip, because when I used to have jobs, when I was just like the average person out there, I was indoctrinated in the culture of more money, more jobs, more hours. And I was in that space for a long, long time. I would say until I got kicked out of that system that forced me to look for a better way. Because one of the issues that's happening with people who think that the only way to make money is to get a job is you're putting your future in the hands of someone who started a business, unless you're working for the government or a college or something like that. But here's the thing why most of these jobs suck. They don't take a great deal of mental ability. Don't take much to do. And people do these jobs and they get bored. And these people haven't prepared themselves for higher levels of employment, because you got to get into tech. You want to make some money on the job, you got to get into tech. Programming, computer security, internet security, you got to get into that. And that's like right now, and let's go ahead and look at some of the salaries. Computer security. Computer security sal. Living and working in Maryland, let's see, information security engineer, 73 to 122. Information security analysts, and these are Atlanta jobs, 48 to 100,000. Entry level cybersecurity, 35K to 135. So there you go. Let's look at coding. Coder's salary, they don't really do that well. 26 to 53, 3783 remote medical coder. So one of the things that happens, and one of the biggest problems is, like I did in the earlier stream talking about foundational stuff. We've got people in a situation where they are not, hey Josh, oil fields, definitely. We got a situation where people aren't really preparing for higher income. And this is one of the things that's going to continue to happen. If you don't prepare for higher income, well, let's go ahead and talk about the stratospheres of social classes. Most people live, and die in the social class that they're born in. I want you to really think about that. They live and they die, they're born, they live and they die in the same social class. Economic mobility takes a lot. And let's go ahead to the Google machine. Most people who are born poor die poor. Here's something else. Only 4% of the people who are born in poverty will ever make it out. I want you to think about that. Only 4% of the people who are born in poverty will ever make it out. And for each social class, like if you are upper middle class, the path to becoming rich isn't as long as the path of coming out of poverty to middle class. That's a hard trip. And a lot of people just don't make it out of that. Once again, only 4% of the people who are born in poverty will make it out. Let's talk about why, because each class has a moat. Each class has, and what some of these barriers, we should say barriers to exit. If you are poor, you ever noticed that it's rare to see an upper middle class girl with a bunch of tattoos? There's a few out there. There's a few exceptions to the rule, but for the most part, they don't do that. Because whenever, like in typically lower middle class, poor, poverty, tats all over the place. Tattoos can be a barrier to economic leveling up. And right now you got a bunch of people with neck tattoos, face tattoos. And if you're gonna play ball, you're gonna be in the NBA, NFL, or a YouTuber, you can get away with that. But I personally don't like to date women with tattoos. Maybe one small one I can deal with, but if she's got like sleeves and all this other stuff, and I've dated a chick with a bunch of tattoos, but her stuff was artistically done. Her shit was gorgeous. But typically when you're poor or lower middle class, the barriers are all around. First off, the first big barrier is tribalism. Tribalism is a crazy barrier to upper middle class. And many people don't understand this because tribalism, like, let's take the Irish, go up to New York, Boston. A lot of Irish families are cops and firefighters because that's the only job they could get when they got here because no one wanted anything to do with them. You could be a cop or you could be a firefighter. You couldn't get into WASP, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. They didn't want the Italians. They didn't want the Irish. They didn't want, and these were white people. There was bias against other white people who came here off the boat. Because if your folks didn't come across on the Mayflower with the Pilgrims, even if you were white, you were still trash. What they like to call poor white trash. And the upper levels of white people until recently did not mix and mingle with the lower class of white people. And to a degree, it's still kind of like that. Like, I want you to go ahead and check out this, it's on YouTube, The Wonderful Whites of West Virginia. The Wonderful Whites of West Virginia. It's a documentary. And the pathology for poor white people is the same exact pathology for poor black people. Out of wedlock births, drug addiction, criminal records. This is the tribalism. Like, if you come out of a certain part of New York and you don't have a criminal record, everybody looking at you like you're crazy. What, you didn't get down with the people? That's actually can be an inhibitor to you being accepted by the tribe. It's like, oh, he don't have no record. He ain't never been to jail. He couldn't, he ain't built for jail. That's like seriously, this is why a lot of these kids, due to peer pressure, end up in jail doing stupid stuff because that's what the tribe does. That's like when I left Alabama and I joined the military, my male sibling sent me a newspaper article when I was in Hawaii, and it had 24 faces splashed across the front page. All these dudes I went to high school with, and they went to jail for selling crack. So essentially, I missed all that. I missed that part because I was never one. Let me tell you what kind of nerdy kid I was. I was a very nerdy kid. And one of the things is I did not bow to peer pressure, much to my, benefit. Because I remember, back, I don't know if they do this anymore in school, but they used to pick students to be hall monitors, and you would pass out people's slips and stuff for being in trouble. And I remember this girl, Lisa Black. She was the cutest girl in school. Still to this day, because we're Facebook friends. She's gorgeous. And she was out in the hall between classes, and I just went ahead and gave her a slip. I didn't give her a pass because she was pretty. And what I didn't know was Mr. Phillips was the assistant principal, was around the corner. And I was like, here you go. And she's like, you ain't gonna let me slide? I was like, nope. You're wrong. You do the crime, you gotta do the time, right? And Mr. Phillips came around and I felt his hand on my shoulder. He said, good job, good job. And I don't think I would have submitted to peer pressure and ended up in jail because I was just a very independent thinker. I just did my own thing. And I look at that and, because once again, Birmingham has gone through multiple changes. It used to be the steel mill, the coal mines. And one of the things that happened was all of those industries were raised. All of those industries was eradicated. So one of the things that you got to understand is local economies factor heavily into poverty and being poor. And it creates this cycle of hopelessness, or this cycle like me before I knew better. I used to be in the pawn shop. I've done a title pawn loan on my cars. I did it multiple times. I've borrowed money from a payday lender. And this was from my upbringing. This is what people who came from my situation did, because we didn't know any better. And like now, I look back at all of that stuff I did that was an inheritance from growing up poor. This is one of the barriers that keeps you, one of the only 4% of people born in poverty will ever make it out. And, sometimes, like I would give you a good example of this. When people are indoctrinated with tribalism, it is very hard that, okay, that's wild. I don't know why. It's hard for new information to filter into the tribe. I learned this when I did my first, Disruptive Male channel, that people have concepts and ideology that is hard to change, even though their current situation is not serving them well. I'd rather dance with the devil I know than the angel I never met. And, I was trying to introduce these dudes to new concepts and stuff, and just a lot of pushback. Fortunately, there was a lot of dudes who were like, hey, man, this is good. This is helpful. I'm using this stuff. But there was a lot of people who were died in, I'm going to say, ghetto hood culture that could not accept new ideals. One of them is, because this is still a thing. It's 2019. This is still a thing. There are people who will never, ever date a white woman because of what people who look like her did 50 years ago. Did she do it? No. Did her people do it? No. Don't matter. You can't trust them. They did this in the 60s. And you would think because each year we get further and further away from the 60s. We get further and further away from the atrocities that were cast upon black people. And I was listening to a YouTube show where this dude was just talking about, I ain't gonna never date no white woman. Can't do it. And, a big part of that is, I guarantee you, if you were to look at this person, it doesn't go to white women. They have no white friends whatsoever. They don't hang out with white people. And this is called a choice. It's really prejudice and being bigoted, but they like, hey, this is how I want to live. This is all good. And you got people, white people and black people, who both do it on both sides, who feel that their preference should be accepted and shouldn't be questioned, even though it's racist as hell. And this is one of the things that you have, because right now we have 42 million people on food stamps. And we have 54 million people who make low income. And many of these people are never going to get out of that low income cycle. They're never going to get out of the low income cycle. They're going to be there for the entirety of their whole lives. And this will be the inheritance that they will give to their children. Their children are going to inherit all of their wives' tales, superstitions, habits, way of handling money. And this is going to create a perpetual cycle of poor people. You know, once again, class escalation. Because first of all, when you tell someone that you can do this and do this and to change your social class, they're going to get mad at you because there ain't nothing wrong with me. I'm good the way that I am. What are you saying? I'm not good enough? How dare you? And that's that tribalism. Like I was watching this show and this guy wanted to go to med school, but everybody in his family was like a firefighter. And yeah, everybody was like, well, Johnny, what are you saying? The family business isn't good enough for you? And he was like, Dad, I want to be a doctor. I got a scholarship to Harvard. They didn't want to hear that. They were like, oh, he's turning his nose on us. He's acting all Hasidity. He's like not keeping the family legacy. They were like on this dude. And eventually he stuck to his guns. He went to medical school. He graduated, became a doctor. And you know when they accepted him? His parents, when they accepted him? When he got married and had kids. That's when they came around. Not a moment before. They didn't even go to his graduations. But when he got married and had grandkids, had their grandkids, that's when they softened up. And they went to him and, you know, he lived in this big house and they was like, well, this is kind of fancy for common folks like us. You've seen this in movies where tribalism is so strong because when you're saying that you can do better, these people automatically think that you're saying that they're not good enough the way that they are. And it's not about being good enough. It's about exploring your options. In America, once we got rid of the, it was a movie. Once we got rid of the manufacturing base and gave it to China, we just like, here China, here Japan, here Vietnam. We're going to give you all of this because we can have people make products overseas. And because you folks are living in third world conditions, we can pay you, instead of paying you 15, 20, 30 bucks an hour, we can pay you $1.50 an hour and you'd be happy with that. So we actually outsourced our prosperity because we wanted cheaper, we wanted higher products, we wanted cheaper products, and the companies wanted higher margins. And so we got rid of our prosperity. And this is why we have this gig economy right now of this proliferation of all of these low wage jobs. I mean, like right now, I can pull out my phone and I can apply to Uber, DoorDash, Uber Eats, a variety of gig economy jobs. Go pull down the app, apply, put my information in, and be working as early as tomorrow. So one of the things that I want you guys to understand is a big part of this is what we as people want. Everybody is looking for the best deal ever. You know, we got America. America looked for the best deal ever. And that's why we outsourced all these jobs, because we could get these people in these other countries to work for literally pennies upon the dollar compared to paying Americans. And that we got what we got. So one of the big issues is you're not going to be able to change your social class with these gig economy jobs. The gig economy is trash. I saw a guy on break. He was a freeway service driver, Uber driver, and had DoorDash bags in the back seat of a 1999 Dodge Neo. Folks need 3 or 4 gigs to survive. Pretty much. Pretty much. The tribe life, biggest success in life, proven to those that do nothing that you don't want to do something. Cosmic Wilson just watched a news show on YouTube saying 44% of fully employed make $18,000 a year or less, because 75 million people make $33,000 or less. I want you to understand that there is a big intersection between culture and class. And if you're an Uber driver or a DoorDash or Uber Eats, even if you're like really successful, you know, let's say you're one of the exceptional Uber drivers that make $5,000 per month, you're gonna be driving. You're gonna be driving, and you're gonna get stuck, because here's another thing that is an inheritance of poor people. And many poor people are unbankable. Bad credit, low credit scores. A lot of poor people don't even have bank accounts. So every time that they do a transaction or something, they got to buy money orders. I used to date this chick who was so financially unorganized that I questioned my mentality for being with her. She used to pay her rent in money orders. And I was like, why don't you get a checking account? She said, don't trust them. I was like, what do you mean you don't trust them? I remember taking her to get money orders at the Publix so she could pay her rent, because she didn't have a bank account. She didn't have credit cards. This chick was a teacher. She was a teacher. And once again, you have these people who, like, what is that app? The money app, where you can get $100 advance on your paycheck. The earning app. That's another poor person product. Earning app. Western Union. These are things that keep people in the same place generationally. Sparkle Sims, some of the most religious people I know are wealthy. So I wouldn't say, I think their religion can play a part, but you've got people who are just refuse to take it to the next level. They absolutely refuse. Agent J Poole, they have alternative products. It's hard living without a bank account, let alone no debit card. You can't do most things without them. Remember, if you had bad credit, you couldn't open up a checking account. Agent J Poole, you remember that? That went away. Regardless of what your credit score is, anybody can go virtually to one of these, like, what is it? Chime. Chime is an internet bank that will accept anybody. Doesn't matter what your credit score is, you can get, and they will issue you a debit card. And I think Simple is another online bank. They don't have any physical locations. These banks only exist online. And this is what a lot of people do. You got the earning app with Chime. 8 apps that can help. I didn't even know it was this many. The 8 apps that can help you make it to next payday. Earning, Branch, Dave, Moneyline, Bridget, Daily Pay, Pay Active, Flex Wage. Earning. Available if you're paid via direct deposit and check account from an earning supported bank. Withdraw up to $100 early per pay period, or up to $500 after you continue to use the app. So the more you use it, the more you can pull out. Branch, I never even heard of this. Withdraw up to $500 and earn wages per pay period. I didn't even know this existed. Dave, borrow up to 75% interest-free short-term loan. Moneyline, borrow up to $250 with an interest-free short-term loan. Bridget, I never even heard of this stuff. Borrow $80 to $250 with interest-free short-term loans. Daily Pay, employer must sign up and offer daily pay as a direct benefit. Get paid early for the work you've done. Pay Active, I'm going to tell y'all a story. And this is when I had some employees. How many of you remember putting 2 weeks in the hole? You start a job at a certain period, because typically, like Northside Hospital, because people are very, very sensitive about this. Northside Hospital would only have you go through orientation at the beginning of the pay period. Because I remember when I got hired and they said, you can't start, so we're going to schedule you for orientation because we got paid for orientation. And that was at the first day of the new pay period. And I remember I had this employee, and she was young, she was a millennial. And we had a conversation about when she got paid, because she thought she was going to get paid earlier. And then this is before I signed up with ADP. And then I just got them on the ADP. I mean, this was a problem. This was a problem. So I came through a system where you work for 2 weeks and you didn't get your check until the 3rd week or sometimes the 4th week. These folks could not do that today. Black preachers stay rich, pretty much. It seems like ethics and morality will keep you poor. That's not necessarily true. It isn't ethics and morality. It's doing the same dumb stuff over and over again. Agent J Poop, yep, sure do. A bad credit, got no bank account. If you did, you did not get a debit card. Used to be a bank would not give you a Visa, MasterCard, debit card if you had bad credit. They wouldn't do it. All that's gone. Roman, bad credit, no checking account, that's before my time. Wow. BK Pro, the earning app, payday loans moved to an app, pretty much. Companies competing for low quality bankers, pretty much. Because they know it's a huge market. Cosmic Wisdom, they even have companies offering loans for people to pay rent? Really? Deforming, gearing toward people designed to keep you in the money trap. 2 weeks in the hole. If you came in at the wrong time, it'll be 3 weeks before you got your check. Yep. And the good news is that you could quit the job and you would still get the check. But, when all my people quit, they didn't get a check after they quit. It was 1 month before I got my check. Were you a teacher? Jobs for 3 weeks in the hole were the worst. Sunflower Power. My brother has a rush card. He has no high school diploma at 40 years old and no job skill. He currently makes 16 an hour with a wife and 2 kids. I'm hoping he will start a business in 2020. Wow. Agent J. Poole, remember, I got caught up in it too. But telling these people today, that doesn't work. They will fight you. I remember having this conversation with the rep from ADP about pay and payrolls and stuff. And it was crazy. But once again, the issue with being poor is that many poor people have poor people habits that keep them poor. All right. Like access to credit. Many poor people, like I'm cashing only. I knew people who would just only pay cash for everything. I'm not messing with no checking account. I'm not messing with no credit cards. That is an indication of your social economic class. Access to credit. James Stokes, my brother is 53. He thinks his pay card is a real bank account at the bank. These are the habits, and the gig economy has made this worse. You know, Uber, you can pull down your Uber pay every day. This is something new that they've put on. So you could pull down the money you made from Uber every day. So if you get up in the morning and you drive all day, and then like at 6 o'clock, if you want to be paid, you can pull it down. Romel, I used to avoid credit trouble, poor mindset. All right, Cosmic Wisdom. So, this is why I'm all about the financial education, because there are many grown people running around here with a Western Union debit card that they use as their bank account. They don't have a real banking account. What's up, Jacob's Life in Vegas? So you have this whole culture of financial poverty, because first of all, you're born into the lower class, or you're born into poverty. And only 4% of people born in poverty make it out. So you develop a lot of very bad habits. Like, I don't think I've ever mentioned this, but my mother filed for bankruptcy 3 times. She would mess up her credit, then file for bankruptcy, then go ahead and get credit again, mess it up again, and file for bankruptcy. And I was sitting there watching this, and I thought it was the craziest thing in the world. You know, she did not know how to handle money. I had her on benefits when I'm in the military, and all she had to do was fill out the form. She didn't fill out the form. So there are many things, and this is what's funny. My mother was born into an upper middle class black family. My grandfather was a barber, and my grandmother was a school teacher. My grandmother had her degree. And my grandfather, unfortunately, he committed suicide. And I think that just messed her up for life. Sunflower, I have a credit union to get my paycheck one day earlier. Good Lord. Don't forget about Green Dot and the cash. Wait, you know about that? I got that Cash App card. Because I hadn't got around to it, but I was going to put my Cash App code on the YouTube channel. I just hadn't get around to it. I don't even recommend college anymore, Doug Life. Too many degrees, not enough jobs to match. LG, yeah, it's only 4%. Appliance boot camp. I have to pay my construction laborers at the end of every day. Most days, they only have enough gas to get to the job site. Wow. Wow. Cosmic wisdom? No, there isn't. Cash App good for emergency cash comes in handy as a trust, no fees. Sky Blue, and I remember you saying your mom wanted you to put money into the family instead of investing yourself. So many black people get held back that way. That's another issue with poverty because here's the story. I did not feel that I was being challenged in my high school, so I got myself a job and I enrolled myself into private school. And this is the strange thing because as I look back at it now, I get really pissed off because I have found me a job that I could work on the weekends, and let's see, I was making let's see, $6.50 an hour times 16. So I was making about $400 or $500 a month. My tuition was $250. So my mom thought that that money should have been going to the family instead of for my education. Yes, we had those fights. What's up, Jacobs, Las Vegas? I make all my income online now. Years of content for G-Verse has seriously helped me out. Congratulations. Welcome to the fam. The Real News Network reported that most new jobs pay less than $18K a year, which is why they need two of them. Jacob's life in Vegas, here in Vegas, is common for people to literally go right to a video poker bar after getting paid on Friday and losing it all on the machine. That's crazy. That's why I learned how to code. Stop thinking education, start thinking school. Stay in the man. You are on point. Once again, one of the reasons I'm not even talking about the impeachment is the Senate isn't going to convict him. This is just an exercise in futility because they refuse to even look at the evidence. So these are, I come from this class. I know that because this is why I had so many financial bad habits when I became an adult. And this is why I was doing all the dumb shit. Because it was an inheritance from my legacy. Because my mother, no one ever really sat down and talked to me about money. I remember one summer, I was hustling. And I was cutting grass because I was going to buy me some Izods, Polos, Jordache, Calvin Kleins, Levi's, and Nikes. And I worked really hard all summer. And I got myself about $700 in the cigar box. Because every week I put my money in a cigar box. So I go to my cigar box about a week before school is starting because I'm getting ready to go shopping. And I see that there's only $50 left in my cigar box. And my mom said I had to take out a loan. She took my money. And this is one of the things, because if you have an enterprising, smart kid that grows up in a poor family, they use that kid. They use that kid and they take this kid's smartness and they use it in hoodish ways. Good Lord, Jacob's life. Lost back. Man. So you have all that. But these cycles and the gig economy is just going to perpetuate this cycle of poverty and scratching out a living. Because with the gig economy, they don't have to pay you benefits. And one of the things, like Uber has this scholarship program that once you get 3,000 rides, they'll give you a scholarship. You know how many years it takes to get 3,000 rides? The name is Glendon. That happened to you as a secure box. My mom would borrow money all the time, told me I was wrong for not hiding my money better. It was a small ass house, man. I only have so many places I can put it. Ramel, I had money borrowed as a kid. That was a great life. You never got paid back. You never got your money back. Cause I was like, I had all these visions of being fresh with the polos and the Azads, and my money was gone. I was depressed that whole week. Because, you can't yell at your mom for taking your money. But that's exactly what happened. She took my money and left me all high and dry. And I was just sitting there like, I was so upset. I was so upset. EK Pro, that's why you see these pro athletes families trying to sue them when they cut the money supply off. Yes, a lot of those guys become the family cash cow. Fletch Davidson, it's terrible how so many women kick the men out of the house because they don't need a man but try to turn the sons into part of the family. Pretty much. I remember telling my mom, I was like, I'm your son, not your man. I remember that conversation. Ricardo, Uncle G, that story about the cigar box never gets old. My mom did the same thing to my brother one summer of him working. It's just ain't fair, man. K-Son, it takes 3 years full time. Good fella nail. Family will use you for money and take advantage of the fact that you're responsible. Absolutely. Agent J Poole, I never got paid back for anything my mother took. Stan the man. The hood mentality is going to be the debt of our people. I see every day the educated black people in my family don't hang out with the hood side of the family. I understand why now. Because bad habits rub off. And this is one of the things that happens with the cycle of poverty and this emergence of all of these low-income jobs. You got people out there with college degrees with 2 and 3 of these gig jobs because that's the only job they can get. And the recession's coming because there's a lot of people that's like, there ain't no recession. This is just some marketing ploy. First of all, if you look at economic indicators, retail is in a recession. It's been there for a minute. Trucking's in a recession and other industries are in recession. Navy Federal line of credit, 17% interest rate. Good Lord, that's high. That sounds like subprime credit rate. Will Melvin, everyone I know with a rush card says the same thing. I get paid a day early. Tell them, so why you still broke? Oh, that's cold, man. That's cold. James Stoker, you work at a program for high schoolers. We pay them, and when the checks were late, the mamas used to clown if the check was late. I should tell you where that money's going. I remember dating a woman recently who kept all her money in a freezer, did not trust banks, and made like I was crazy because I had bank accounts. That is the lower class mentality. You can't trust those banks. The banks are bad. Credit cards are bad. Typically, how someone runs their financial life can dictate what economic class they are. Because you got a lot of people with degrees and good jobs, and they still bank and run their financial life like poor people. Money orders, cash, debit cards, no real bank account. Gene Gray, I had the cigar moment as a kid. Sucks for I have to complete Contemplate having to put a lock on your door. House for sale in Clarksville. I'm still trying to find health insurance as an individual. Good policy is going to be about $500 to $750 a month. I'm just telling you. Agent J. Poole. It is a shame when Starbucks is one of the better paying jobs out there. Art Austin, I'm glad my parents never took my money. 6 of my cousins had to give up their entire checks to their parents, and both parents worked and still lived as in poverty. My cousins still suffer from all of that. Listen to Art Austin. I'm glad my parents never took my money. 6 of my cousins had to give their entire checks to their parents, and both parents worked and still lived in poverty. Bad money management habits. This is the hallmark of being poor. I know, Jacob. There's a lot of people who say it ain't coming because they want to prop up their boy Trump. My mentor was talking to his next door neighbor. She says, the end of the month, you know how it is. My mentor said, no, I don't. Nobel champion. I still know people who cash their paychecks at the liquor store. Starbucks gives health care. Sunflower Power. Yes, my mom used my name for gas and electric. I know, Gabran. And this is one of the things we're talking about because half of America, half of work in America, which is 75 million people, make $33,000 a year or less. Shouttown Hive, Yellow Brillo. Yes, she was a total financial wreck. Keyboard DF. A lot of black people have bad credit because mom used their name. Typically, if they use it early enough, it's only going to stay on their credit profile for 7 years. So if they use them when they're babies, they should be good. Xanos Clutch, ADO's culture in the nutshell. And they're the baby's kids who have nowhere else to go, who want to preserve this shit of a culture. Pretty much. Good feeling. It's funny how everyone is hiring. It used to take me 6 months to save $6,000 barely. But entrepreneur-wise, I can make $6,000 in less than a month. This is why, you got to come out of that, because this is a large percentage of America. Gang, Brand, you got fired because you said F word. Good Lord. So where are we with this? Because once again, once you begin to understand, I'm going to be talking more about this on Disruptive Mail once I get some more of the content from the first Disruptive Mail transferred. I'm going to talk about this a lot. A lot of these sugar babies are all part of the lower economic strata. If they're on there, they're going to have some problems. They're going to either have a money problem, or they're going to have an issue with employment. It's going to be an issue. And once again, this is how I know the person who drives for Uber. And this is how I know this stuff. Because I met her on the Sugar Baby website, and we just talked. And, I smashed, but I haven't given her any money. Because I was telling her, I was like, look, you need to be able to maintain on your own. Because here is one of the things that is happening. And this is a big, big issue. First of all, we have a huge, huge segment of the population that is in low income hell. 75 million people. America only has a population of 330. So we have 150 million people who are working. That's the economy. And these 150 million people who are working are paying all of the Social Security benefits. We need them. Oh man, the Cash App thing is good. It is good. So as a society, this is dangerous because we've got we've got a huge population that is struggling to live. I mean, it's a huge part of the economy. It is a huge segment of the United States of America. And this is why van life, this is why car life, people living in their cars, this is why we have all of these things going on. I just posted this. This chick lived in a car for 3 years. Her YouTube channel has blown up. Now she's moved into an apartment. The girl Janelle with Alfredo the White Snake, she's bought a bigger van. I'm quite sure she's going to move into an apartment in her house very soon. Because once economics change, their mindsets change. So a big part of this is looking at the overall landscape, because these proliferation of all of these jobs that don't pay no money are actually not good for the economy. Our economy, we have a consumption-based economy. The more people buy, the better the economy. So we have all these people who are in a position where they can't spend a lot of money. China's already a superpower, man. China got nukes, and they are the manufacturing base of most of the world. I mean, we helped China become extremely powerful by just like, here, take this. Manufacture our drugs. Pharmaceuticals are manufactured in China. It ain't just cheap toys or cheap stuff on Amazon. There's a lot of stuff that is manufactured in China. And because when we got rid of the manufacturing base to increase corporate profits, we eliminated the path of the middle class. This is how, like my Uncle Martin, he left Alabama, went to Detroit, 2 years. He had a job, he had a house, Cadillac, and he was married to my Aunt Lillian. He was like, you could do that in a minute. Thank you, Andrew Hill, for the $10 super chat. So we got all of these people out here who are struggling to make a living. Houses for sale in Clarksville. I know saving and investing is gold. Do you ever plan for an emergency for supplies and weapons? Hold on a second. Hold on 1 second. This is on my desk. I got one on my nightstand and I got another one. I'm probably going to buy 3 more guns because I used to have one in each vehicle, because we're going to be in a situation. Oh no, there's nothing in the chamber. So I already know. I know that because, but this is on my desk because what's going to happen, and regardless of what happens to the overall economy, we're going to have a lower class that's going to be very much about that criminal life. So houses for sale in Clarksville, I'm very much about that self-protection. I've got 3, and not for this house, the next house, I'm going to get me a shotgun, because a shotgun is your best weapon for home defense, because typically you can take someone out and they don't typically go through the walls. Look at one road. The economy has wrapped itself around the next. It's just waiting to squeeze. American culture and economic hegemony is being the last of its greatest days. I think we got a ways to go, but it's definitely on the decline because what has happened is other countries have caught us up with us, and in some cases they've exceeded us. Like high-speed internet in some countries is much better than it is here. Stan the man, I've made that prediction myself. I really feel America's going down the road of Mad Max. Everyone living in the city will be wealthy and the poor will live on. This, you're already seeing this. Real estate. You're seeing white people who are moving to inner cities. Gentrification has happened in every major city. People are like, I'm tired of driving 30, 40 minutes to work downtown. I want to live around the corner of, from where I work. The rich people, because what's going to happen is only rich or well-off people are going to live in the cities. And the poor people are going to live on the outskirts. That's coming. We're seeing that's the trend right now. All right, Agent J. Poole. Since I moved to Texas, I feel the need to learn how to shoot. Hey, I think everybody needs to go to the range. Because once again, jobs everywhere, but they kind of suck. We have created a new social class of gig economy workers. Like the Uber worker, like all the people who do Uber full time. All you gotta do is have a car, don't get any tickets, keep your driving record straight, and just drive all day. It doesn't take a lot of mentality to drive all day. No, Garan, this is affecting a lot of white people. This gig economy has got a lot of white people by the throat. It ain't just black folks. It's everybody, because the new economy don't care who you are. And, with this cultural let me hold $30. That's funny. I remember when I used to borrow money from people. That is very sad. That is really, really sad. But I remember that point in time. And once you get a legacy of bad financial habits, they can literally hunt you for life. You could literally be living like that. Most white people are poor. I mean, because there's more of them. I mean, they make up, like, I think 150 million people of America's population. Like, take Sex in the City. You know what the job that Carrie Bradshaw had that afforded her the ability to live in an apartment by herself? In real life, that job don't pay that kind of money. One of the things that you see with white America is the misrepresentation, like Friends, all of this stuff. You'll see white people on TV with normal ass jobs living in this extraordinary house. Take these Lexus commercials. All of these houses, you see these Lexuses, like the guy who gets his wife, she hands him 2 watches, and like, I got something for Christmas, then he go outside and she takes the truck. That's a modern house. That's $1 million house. In the Lexus commercials with the bows on top, these are $1 million houses. These are not normal people. And what you're seeing on television is regular white folks with regular jobs living this extraordinary life. And this is creating a mental conflict because people like, it's on TV. I work that kind of job. How come I don't live that life? It ain't real. It ain't real, man. Douglas Jones, Sex and the City was pure fantasy, fun, but ferociously inaccurate. Absolutely. Mike Jimmy's, go ahead and start a service business. Get yourself some money. Michael Robinson, yeah, it's more. This is one of the reasons that Trump is in office, because white people have found themselves poor. They're like, they're watching Carrie Bradshaw on Sex and the City, and they're like, hey, how come I ain't living like Carrie? It must be those blacks. They're trying to keep you chasing the dream with those commercials. Well, it's a misrepresentation of American culture, because you'll see all of these things, and these are upper middle class families. Like every commercial, you'll see them in a super nice house with a modern kitchen. This is not normal America. Like in my videos where I talk about I'm driving around the neighborhood, this neighborhood I live in, this ain't normal America. It ain't even close to normal America. The mortgages around here are more than what normal America makes per month. Coach Carol, they got it in syndication and reruns. They still perpetrating those lies. Staying the man, sister, 1% has more money than 9%. You're going to see industries like automotive and real estate cater to them. Pretty much. They're not even building low-income housing, because I can build, it's like I could take my loan money and build houses for folks who are going to pay me $500,000 to $1 million for this house, or I can go out and build low-income tracts and hardly make any money. They're not incentivized to build low-income housing. This is a big, big problem, because right now, one of the things that is happening is the lowering of American expectations, because the harsh reality of working that gig job, the harsh reality of not having, Mike, I'm not sending you any money. You need to watch this channel, watch the videos, and go out and get your ass to work. Start yourself a service business. Because once again, reality has a way of waking people up. People are being slapped with reality right now. People are being slapped with what are jobs that don't suck. I'm gonna give you an example of a job that can suck. Like, you want to take a vacation, you don't have to ask anybody. You could just put in, I'll be off these days. A job that doesn't suck. If you want to talk on the phone, you could talk on the phone. A job doesn't suck. A job that doesn't suck usually pays you between $70 and $150 a year. Will Melvin, that's already happening big time in California. Pretty much, Scott Belvin, I ain't giving nobody no money. So once again, one of the big issues is, Mike Jimis, you manage your money better. We don't give no handouts on this channel. Apparently you're new, because I, as a person, and this may seem hard-hearted, but when I see people begging for money, I just don't give it. Someone come to the parking lot with a sad story, I never give any money. I'm just like, well, that's sorry. Because typically my response is, I don't have no cash. And usually I only have hundreds on me, and I'm not going to give some person $100. I'm not going to do it. Cedric McMillan, I used to work in foster care and probation in New York City. A whole lot of white folks were in public housing living off food stamps. Once again, the greatest concentration of poor people in this country are white people. Why? Because there's more of them. And this is one of the lies that's perpetrated by the hoteps, like all white people have all this wealth. I've dated a lot of broke, white girls that came from broke ass families. I'm trying to tell you, it ain't like that. Greg Williams, I am from Brooklyn, New York. There's nothing but new construction happening everywhere. Builders are not building low income. They ain't touching it. They're not incentivized to do it. They're just not incentivized to build low income housing. And what this mixed development stuff, like I go ahead and I'm living in this nice building. I done spent $500,000 or $1 million for where I live. I don't want to be living next to some poor people who got in on the humbug. Not really. No. And this is why it's such a hard sell, because, all right, you're going to pay $1 million for your apartment, but because Susie has 2.5 kids and less than a college education, she gets to live in the same building that you do? I don't think so. Will Melvin, the only people I give money to are the ones who offer a service, wash my windows for the spare change. Grant Barnes, this misconception of most whites being rich feeds and fuels racism. It's just simply ain't true. Low income equals rent controls in the city that you can sell a $10,000,000 apartment who wants a few grand a month. Like I said, they're not incentivized to do low income housing. Mike Robs, the only good paying jobs to see are tech skills that pay 70 to 150K. These jobs require you to sit down and learn these technical skills. Most people want or can't learn them. And that goes back to foundational education. Greg Williams, I suspect my neighborhood will be completely gentrified in a couple of years. If you live in a downtown area, more than likely. The name is exactly Troy Glover. I'm an immigrant and have an IT job and own a house, but there are people that tell me I'm leeching off the system. When you get people, once again, this whole poor mindset, poor mentality, lower class tribalism is a cancer upon the fabric of America. Because once again, you see it. And this is one of the reasons that I'm against hood culture. Because people are like, hey man, we keeping it. Because this is one of the reasons that kids of upper middle class to rich black parents end up poor, because they're trying to keep it real by associating with the hood people. Mike Jimison, y'all talking to me as if I'm a poor person. Man, you don't hear begging like a poor person. I need $30. That's poor people behavior. And I've addressed this in this stream, that you got a lot of people with a degree, with a so-called middle class upbringing, who act financially poor, do poor people stuff financially. I mean, Greg Williams, that's just what's the future. That's just what's going to happen. Because one of the things that, that this so-called strong economy is hiding is the fact that we got, because like 150 million people are working. And we have 150 million people who are kids, elderly. These folks don't work. So these, essentially we have, let's see. How many people in America are working? All right, more than 157 million people are part of the American U.S. workforce. Okay. We have a population of 330 million. So let's do the math. $300 minus 157 All right. So we have 157 million people in America working. We have 173 million people being supported by those people who work. So we've got literally 20 some million people more who are not working. I want you to think about that. Who are not working, being supported by the 157 who work. So we're going to put kids, we're going to put old people, we're going to put the retired folks in there. So we got some people who are supporting themselves, but that's a problem. They're dumbing the people down. Knowledge is wealth. That's so true. I know folks here in California with no degree that work in IT, they have the skills. There you go. Douglas Jones, guy went to high school with, had a black father, doctor, black mother, lawyer. He went to college and fell in with the hood crew, robbed the bank, and ended up doing well over 10 years. That's one of the reasons that I am so against hood culture. Because you've got kids who have the opportunities and resources of a better background that fall in it, and they be keep it real. Keep it real. Throw some gang signs. I've seen this happen. When I was growing up, there was this place called Holiday Hills, and this is where the upper class blacks lived. And then I saw how some of them adapted to the more tangible, saucy hood culture. BK Pro, DC area, a lot of the countries around here require the new construction to have low and moderate income units. That's how I was getting in nice neighborhoods when my income was light. That's crazy. Good fellow now, who may be an ignorant coup? When did us blacks lose our way or class? I'm going to say it started to happen in the 90s. Because if you go back and look at old Soul Train videos, you notice that everyone is slim and fit. And there was something, it happened with this between the 70s and the 90s with this proliferation of single mother homes. Because here's another issue with generational poverty. Your chances of going to jail, being poor, getting pregnant out of wedlock are extremely high if you come from a single mother home. And no one wants to talk about that. Grant Barnes, it happened when the welfare state became the black woman's husband, which began in the 1960s. Very interesting thing. A lot of white guys are finding themselves in the same position that black men have been in for years. So, once again, you know, the gig economy and all these jobs, and they keep talking about how strong the economy is. When you got people who are literally working every day, but they struggle every day, even though they're working more than 40 hours a week, they're still struggling. They can barely pay their bills. And if God forbid something happens, and this is one of the things that is killing people, and a lot of folks are not paying attention to the math. You're not paying attention because, once again, this is why, I'm doing all of this financial education, because you're going to have to change your social class. And part of changing your social class is changing your financial habits. Nephew's stepson had a full ride to University of Florida, started hanging in the hood, went to jail, then prison, then got killed in prison. I've seen that story so many times. And this is why I am just anti-hood, living in bad neighborhoods. And I have people who fight me on this because you're being unkind to black folks. They're being unkind to themselves, living in these hood lives, not being bankable, doing all of these bad financial things, getting payday loans, getting good looking out for the earning app. Every time I see that commercial, I get mad. You're saying you don't have $100 saved? Good Lord. You should have 2,000 saved. To be factually honest, you should have about 20K saved in your rainy day fund. This isn't for investments. This isn't money to flip on a house. You should have $20,000 in the bank account somewhere in case you have an accident or something. Yep, I did 6 years in the Army. So we got all of these people who are living poor financial lives, and they're wondering why it doesn't get any better. This is not going to get any better until they start changing their bad habits. Turf, all men over the age of 30 should have at least 10K disposable. Once again, this is one of the reasons I do these streams and do these things to educate you, because we have a huge part, 75 million people who make less than $33,000. That is 1/4 of the country. And 173 million people don't even work because they're a kid or in college or a retired person, or they're just not in the system. And we have a lot of people who are not participating in the American money game. They're not even playing. So that's all I got for you guys. Be sure to check out B School for Hustlers. I got a lot of stuff that's coming there, and all pricing there is going to stay the same until 2020. So you got time. So with that, I'll see you guys later.